Hello, everybody. I am Ashton Kiefer, welcoming our first guest, Gabe Garcia, a former Rye High School graduate, and we are talking about wrestling in the 2020s and beforehand. But we're trying to fix the 2020s. Hello, welcome our guest, Boy11, on YouTube. The next question. Another huge problem everyone has is how expensive the wrestling companies have made it to come to events, to buy merchandise, to support the wrestlers, or to give to their kids, and to stay in touch with the product with the streaming sites. Um, before we go into specifics of before we go into your comments, I would like to say to the fans or to anybody that the wrestling companies ticket prices are going up to Super Bowl, football prices, and merchandise. The championship belts went from $399 to $599. They've been skyrocketing over these past couple years. Did you have any comments on why they would do this? How it could like let make people not want to watch the show anymore, and how WWE and all these other companies could fix that.
I think I think it's as simple as cheaper prices bring in more people. I think you know you try to go to a Raw show and it's ridiculous for a seat that's way in the back where you can't find anything. It's just not accessible. It's accessible for the people that have that kind of money, but you're losing your big your really big crowd that they had was just the average people. You could go to a Raw match and get like right next to the barricade seats for like $100, $150 at most. And obviously that's I mean it it changes based on inflation and everything. I understand that, but I think that you could still stick to those prices and bring in more money that way. I think that's another reason why people don't want to keep up because it's like why should I pay so much to basically watch people act, you know? And I think the belts and everything. It's like you want to get your family gifts, you want to get your friends gifts, obviously, and if you know that, then it's like you want to buy those things, but you can't because it costs so much, and it's just very ridiculous. I think if they just lower the prices, they'll bring in more people.
Another thing I would like to bring up with this problem that a lot of wrestling fans are having is that one of the people on the TKO board, the board that owns WWE, made a tweet saying that Vince McMahon was stupid because of him marketing to normal families instead of trying to get more profit. Do you have any comments on that? Have you heard of that heard that happened before, or is this news to you?
This is news to me. That is a crazy thing to say. I think. I mean, if there's one thing Vince McMahon did right, because I mean, the guy is awful, truly awful, but he knew how to market it. And I think that to say it's stupid to advertise to the average people, that's ridiculous. That is completely ridiculous. You shouldn't if you lose your fans, you lose your money. Without the fans, you don't have anything. I mean, like the pandemic kind of proved that a little bit, where there wasn't an audience, it didn't do as well. So it's like you need your fans. You know, you can't just treat your fans poorly. You need your fans.
Um, Another thing that some I'm pretty sure some YouTubers were saying was that it kind of feels like they're marketing to like non-wrestling fans more than actual wrestling fans, and they're gonna get eventually get to the point where people are just going to events who say that they went to events that they don't actually care about WWE. Do you think that might happen in the future? And if so, how do we make sure that doesn't happen in the future for the actual wrestling fans that watch the product, that want to stay engaged, that have loved it maybe their entire lives, maybe are just starting to love it?
I think it just goes back into the price thing. I think it's just the fact that it's so pricey that it's turning into a flex about it's turning into a financial flex more than like I saw these two people wrestle, you know. And I think it's a matter of booking too. I think it's almost like they kind of cater for those people that are just there to financially flex. I think that they need to put more of their main event people there and bring down the prices that way. It's more so of a like I pay. It was cool. I got to pay a cheaper price to see these main stars. You know, I think that would shift the conversation.
A quick point on what you've been saying is like they haven't been booking top wrestlers. Um, I haven't written this down as a question, but some like wrestling YouTubers and like online and stuff, people are saying that it's kind of like what happened to The Rock happened, like how he left the WWE and then went to Hollywood, messed up WWE around that time. That they're thinking that the philosophy of WWE at the moment is that they're trying to work with those people so they can go to Hollywood and still be there, so that they'll still keep their top stars, but they might just not have them as much. Do you think that's a good booking philosophy, or do you think they could do that in a good way so they don't lose their top stars, but also they have their top stars consistently?
I think I think that they should understand having to listen to your top stars and their needs to keep them because if you don't, then they'll leave, obviously. But at the same time, I think there should be more. Like they should say more. Like you gotta you gotta show up more is what I think. I think that's how they should book it, and I think that it should come to a point where like if they want to be in a movie, then they can work with that. But it seems like it's so often that it's less. I'm working on another project. I can't make it to work. It seems more that it's just like I don't feel like it. I'm not showing up. That's what it comes across to for me, at least.
Um, to harpen on to that point, some key wrestlers that have um shown up and then left more often than not are people like Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes did that for a little bit, but he's been more consistent out of the list of people who've left. AJ Lee made her return, left, made another return, then left. And
Mm-hmm.
then people like Brock Lesnar, and then even somebody like John Cena, who I know is really big in Hollywood, but when he was around for his farewell tour, he didn't show up as often as most people would hope. How
Mm-hmm.
do you think they could do to help like satisfy everyone's needs, but also make sure that they all show up more consistently in the near future?
I think I think if they just stop, they almost advertise it a little bit that these people are in Hollywood, you know, and I feel like they didn't do that as much in the past, to where it was like if a wrestler was in a movie, it just kind of depended on what it was. Like if it was a hit movie, then you know they'll advertise it. But I think that now it's like they advertise the fact that they're even in Hollywood, you know. And I think sometimes people show up and then they're not feeling it, so they just do a story. They do an injury storyline to where it's like, oh, they're injured, they won't be back for however so many days. When really it's just that they don't really care at the moment. I don't know. That's kind of what I think.
Um, Now time for question number 7. Another huge problem everyone has in the wrestling industry is how expensive wrestling companies have made it to come to events, to buy merch to support either a wrestler or to give to your kid, and then to stay in touch with the product through uh, through streaming platforms and different stuff like that. Do you think that is a problem, and do you think there could be a way to fix that problem with making sure that the wrestling companies still get as much profit as they get through the specific means?
Yeah, so I 100% think this is a problem. More so specifically with WWE, because it kind of feels like they're pricing out their core fan base, and it kind of feels like the people that are going to be able to make these shows are people that don't necessarily love the product. They're kind of just people with a lot of money, or like influencers, or I know they always pay like celebrities to like, oh look, it's this guy from this Netflix show. He's here, but we probably paid him to be here and stuff like that. And I think that this is going to be a problem because, like, in the short term, they're going to see increased money, no doubt about it. I think it's pretty simple where if you charge more for stuff, you're going to make more. But I think if you try to think about this long term, like, you're going to price out like families and your core audience and stuff like that, people that are like supporting your products. So, like, these people that show up to shows just because they have a lot of money aren't going to be like supporting the product long term. So I think it's definitely a problem, specifically with ticket prices, more so to say, because like even like again, I think this is more so WWE specific. I think some of their shows do kind of better with or promotions do better than this than WWE, but like they cut down on like house shows, which those were fun and cheap. Like whenever the house shows were in my area, I would always go because the tickets were always cheap and they were to me they were more fun because it was kind of like a show for the house. You know, it was like them like just having fun. It wasn't televised. You know, people like longer matches and stuff like that. And like you'd always see like families and stuff that go there because they were cheap. They it didn't cost much to go to those, and I would always get pretty good tickets too. Like and but now with like these major shows, like it's like I said, WrestleMania I was at, it was like $500 for literally like towards the top of the stadium. Like that's crazy. Like I'm not even kidding. Some of the lower seats I saw were reselling for like 13K or something like that. Like that's literally insane. Like I know those are resale prices and not necessarily representative of like the retail ticket price or whatever, but I just think it kind of like just shows how much like these ticket prices have increased. And I think short term it's gonna help them make money, but I think they probably just don't care to address this issue because it's kind of funny because Vince McMahon, despite all of his allegations and issues, had some positives. Like he really cared about some of this stuff. Like I don't think he would allow like tickets to get this high or like crazy advertisements all over the ring. Because I think he would draw the line here of like, despite him as like this big bad guy character, I think deep down he really did care about the fans and like he had certain lines he didn't want to cross. And I think now with not investors, the parent company owning them, I think a lot of this stuff might be above the like WWE people's heads. Like I think WrestleMania back in Vegas was a direct result from TKO because originally it was announced in New Orleans and apparently allegedly like TKO executives were like, no, just have it in Vegas again. We're gonna make a lot more money because it's just more money focused than like your core audience, which builds up your promotion. And I suppose the counter argument people make is the promotion's so big, like it's never gonna go down. Maybe it's not going to go like up further, but it's not going to go down. It's too big. It's kind of like with people draw a comparison. Well, I'm going to draw a comparison to like Nintendo. Like there's a fact where like they could bleed money for like 10 plus years and be fine. So like at the end of the day, like I don't think you're really going to see changes with this either, which kind of sucks.
Another thing along with this is there was a tweet by a TKO member, like one of the main guys, I'm pretty sure, said that that Vince McMahon practically said that Vince McMahon was stupid for catering to like specific families and not like trying to make the most money possible. Do you want to weigh in on that tweet?
Yeah, to me that comes across as a completely out of touch executive who doesn't care about the industry and just cares about money. Like I think this same I don't know if it was the same guy or another executive thought WrestlePalooza was a pure WWE creation when that was actually an ECW creation. Like it's just people that are just so out of touch with the industry and they only it's people in suits that just care about money. You also saw this towards the dying days of WCW with like these what was it like AOL executives when they're merging with Time Warner, like trying to tell them how to write their show, and they don't even watch the show, and it's like, dude, like these out of touch executives. I get it; they're probably the people bankrolling this, but like maybe just don't talk about stuff you have no idea about, and maybe just kind of try to step back and not think about money every 5 seconds. Like I get it; it's a business; it's supposed to make money, but I think there's a certain threshold you cross where it becomes greed and avarice rather than like actually just trying to make a living here. And I think that statement specifically is completely out of touch and someone that literally does not care about the fans at all, just money.
Do you want to say anything else about like how expensive the industry has gotten?
Um, Honestly, it just kind of makes me sad thinking about it because I know I've mentioned this like 4 times this interview, but I was at WrestleMania 41 and that cost me so much money. But like I've always wanted to go to a WrestleMania. That's why I did it. But like I don't really see myself going to too many more shows in the future. Like the Chamber I think is coming up near me, and I don't think I'm gonna go because I think the tickets are just insane. Like it's not even really worth it. Like I just sit at home and watch this. And with the house shows being cut down, like those, I honestly like house shows more than like televised shows because I've been to way more of those actually, because they're a lot more fun and like I said, cheap and stuff like that. But like with those gone too, like it's literally pricing out people like me that have always been going to shows for a long time. So like it would take a lot to get me to go to a show now, whereas before I wouldn't hesitate and like, oh, it's in my area, I'm gonna go. But now I kind of think about it like, is this really worth it?
If you don't mind me asking, off of like the documentary and stuff, like sidebar from that, when was the first time you went to a like show, like a wrestling show?
So the first wrestling show I went to was a Raw in 2004. Um, yeah, Monday Night Raw in 2004. I don't know the specific date off the top of my head, but that was the first time I went. So between that time and now, anytime it was in my area, I was pretty much at the shows. I'm in kind of like I'm in Illinois, so let's just say like the Chicago area is kind of like my general area. Not too many pay-per-views, but like house shows definitely. SmackDown's Raws and WWE's ECW too was around too. I was at a lot of those, so yeah.
Okay. So, one of the last problems that people have is a good majority of people don't like how repetitive weekly wrestling shows have gotten. Some key examples is The Vision, closing Raw, like always with like a brawl with the faces, either after a tag team match or after like a 6-man one-on-one or anything like that.
Mhm.
The Judgment Day in about 2023 to 2024, starting off Raw with like a promo every week. Jeff Hardy with his substance abuse storylines, with how they kept bringing back his substance abuse problems when he feuded against Punk was the original one in 2010, and then he had it again in 2021 against Sheamus and then against Elias. And then the final example I would like to point out is some people say that MJF a AEW wrestler it has had some rivalries that just like start off pretty good, and then AEW just cuts them. They think that's been not good creative and stuff. My question to you is, how could they fix their creative like backstage to make sure they don't have as many repetitive um storylines, segments, and stuff like that, so they can give a better product to the fans?
I think it's just a matter of doing more with your creative writing team. I think instead of just saying, yeah, that works, why not go just get wacky? I think they need to just get wacky. There's not enough wackiness. They're taking stuff that they know has worked in the past that people have liked, and they're just basing entirely on that it'll work again. And that's the issue. There isn't any risk anymore. I think they were willing to take risks whether it worked out or whether it didn't. Like regardless, they're too afraid that it won't work out. So now it's just turning into the same things over and over, and it's just becoming really boring. I think that's a simple fix.
Um, do you think for like to fix that with taking more risks, do you think they might need to fire some of the creative they have now, replace them with different people, or do you think that might be a fix to that, or do you think they could figure it out with the creative that the companies have now?
I mean, they might have to fire people, but I think it's definitely they could have a meeting or something of some sort and discuss it and discuss, figure that out. I think, yeah.
Well, we have one more question, number 10. A good majority of people don't like the repetitive, like weekly creative, with how like in like I think 2023 it was always the Judgment Day coming out doing a promo. How it's like Jeff Hardy always having to be in his like substance like storylines with like people like Elias and Sheamus. And then like how people say that I've heard online is that MJF had like start stories and then it would like immediately cut off before the story would actually be able to continue. And then the final one I would like to bring up is like the Vision always ending a Raw either being laid out or laying out somebody else. Do you think there's a way that wrestling companies could take like a better approach to fix said creative blunders? And if so, how do you think they could go about doing that?
Yeah, that one's kind of tough because you always have fans saying like, even like me probably would say like how I would write something, but whether or not some of this stuff would work, I don't know. And it's also kind of tough with wrestling because like you have to write stuff for a show every single week, and like you have all these variables of like maybe people getting injured and stuff like that. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but like some of the examples you said, like like in 2023 the Judgment Day always interrupting someone. I know there's like that meme online of like just someone doing a promo and turning and then the music plays. Like it's like, dude, like after a while it's kind of like you're just going back to the well so much. Like it's hard to come up with a solution, right? Because like I can say and spitball ideas, but I think just the idea is like maybe I should watch more of the Unreal show to see like the booking stuff. But I think the idea should be you have, which they kind of do this, but you need to have multiple people giving inputs here, and you need to like kind of decide like what the what direction you should go. Because to me, if you're doing the same thing every week, it just kind of feels like you're following the same idea someone else had like over and over again. And like even with stuff like Judgment Day, I feel like it's kind of run its course. Like we're still going with that stuff, and it's just like even watching Raw, it's like, oh, there's tension in the Judgment Day. There's tension in the Judgment Day. Is this person gonna leave, or are these people getting along? It's just over and over again. And at a certain point, it's like, dude, can we just try something else? Like, and like some of the other ones, like nowadays, like the Vision, it's like kind of like you said, like a show just always ending. It's like, oh, the good guy gets jumped by the Vision. Oh, how is he gonna come back from this? And it's like, dude, can we just try to come up with something else, man? Like, I just again, like it's tough because like you're writing every week, but like when you're doing the same thing every week, it's kind of like I feel like I could do better, and I'm not even like I just sometimes just write stuff for fun or like stuff I wrote in college or whatever. Like it's not like I know like it's like a stereotype like the fan thinking he knows everything else better, but I mean sometimes you just gotta call stuff out, and like if you don't like something, you don't like something. Like I don't like this idea of like sometimes some of the wrestlers get offended and like they go at fans saying like you're not allowed to have an opinion because I'm a wrestler and you're not. I don't like that take because as a fan, like I can like and not like stuff. Sure, like a wrestler would have a probably a better perspective of like, why we did stuff, and probably their opinion means more. But I don't like this idea of like the fans can't say like this was written poorly and stuff like that. Um, I just really don't like that take because like I'm gonna have stuff I like and stuff I don't like too. Like imagine if I agree with some of these wrestlers where I can't have an opinion, and you're like you asked me, you're like, what'd you think of Raw last week? And my response was this. I don't really know because as a fan, I don't know whether I enjoyed it or not because I don't really understand the process. Like if I said that to you, you'd be like, what? What are you talking about? You don't have an opinion on something like that? Or a lot of people compare it to like if you eat food and like you can't have an opinion unless you're a professional chef or whatever. That's honestly ridiculous. Like the anytime you consume any medium, there's always different perspectives here. There's people that made it, there's people that watch it. It's kind of like interpreting art, so to say, right? So I think if you have a majority of people saying something, it's probably most likely true. Like kind of like like we're saying, like the vision jumping people over and over again. It's like, can we try something else here? Or are we just gonna go back to the well here and like just do the same thing over and over again?
Well, do you have any last minute thoughts on that, or do you have any last minute thoughts on creative?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say like the inverse of that. There's people that specifically, I know like social media is probably like a heart of a lot of these issues that think they know everything and they say this will work. It's 100%. They should write it like this. And yeah, that's probably where some of these wrestlers are coming from. We're saying like, stop, you don't really know as much as you know. And like, there, another thing here is like, there's no correct answer to this. I can't say like the correct way to write this show would have been this, right? But I think there's a certain line. It's like when you have all these people saying like, okay, I'm kind of tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. Like to me, like the top of the industry in wrestling was like 98 to 01, maybe even like 97 to 01, where like you didn't know like people like Stone Cold, what's he gonna do this week here? Like he's coming out like a beer truck one week, or he's like jumping over like security to attack Vince one week or whatever. Like I think when you have stuff like that, that's like because wrestling's like a creative like endeavor, right? So like when you have different stuff every week, that's how you engage the audience, right? So like if you keep doing the same thing, people are just gonna tune out, and like it's like if imagine like if you were just like eating one thing for the rest of your life, you're gonna get tired of it. Like it's just not gonna do it for you, regardless of how you initially reacted to it or liked it.
Okay, that is all the questions I have for you. Do you have any comments on anything else in the wrestling landscape of the 2020s from 2020 to 2025? Do you would like to bring up as like an issue that maybe we can like learn how to fix or improve upon, how to like improve to get better with said problem?
Um, I mean, I don't have anything really specific. I think you did a pretty good job of presenting like a good variety of stuff, and I think it's always important to compare how things were to how things were now. Because my philosophy on anything in life is always there's always room for improvement. So I think like if we like look back on our discussion here like 30 years later, there's probably going to be changes and stuff like that. Some might be better, some might be worse, but I think something like this is just like a constantly evolving like I guess art form, so to say. There's always ways to improve things here, and I think really probably the core of like issues is protecting people's health. I think is number one. Obviously, like number two would be like how do you draw the most fans, because that should be really the goal here, to become like to be I don't know if popular is the right term, but we should really try to please the fans. Obviously, there's like a threshold of like if you listen to the fans too much and let them write the stuff for you, it's probably not a good thing. But also, you can't just ignore people and price them out with issues and stuff like that. I think there needs to be like a balance here. So I think again, I guess that's really a WWE specific problem with the money stuff. But I think I don't know, who knows what's gonna happen, but I don't know if they'd ever choose to address that, because at the end of the day, it's a business, and like everyone has their different perspective. Fans want good products, executives want more money, wrestlers probably want longer careers and like draw or becoming more popular and stuff like that, and like world championships, and becoming like a established character over with the fans, if you want to use that term or whatever. So there's all these different perspectives, but I think at the end of the day here, there's always room for improvement. So there's probably issues like we don't even really think about that eventually is probably going to be like addressed or brought up in the future.
Then I would like to say thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll work with you in the future. Thank you, YoungBoy11 on YouTube.
Yep, sounds good, man. I think there were some really good questions in there too, for sure. Where stuff I didn't really think about, so it was really fun to talk about this stuff again. Like just really like a fan's perspective, of how you or me feels. Like obviously people have their own takes, but I think it's important to always listen to everybody and then kind of go from there.
Thank you very much for having me. It was very nice. It was very fun. Yeah, I guess that's it. It's good to talk. Good to talk about wrestling. I love wrestling. See ya.